Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Everyday Investor, the hottest investment show in the world. That's right, I said it. I don't care who knows it. We all want more time to spend with family and friends. We want time to engage in a purpose greater than ourselves, to have some sort of meaning in life. The challenge is we spend most of our time working to make money in order to live. Let me say that again. We spend our precious time working to make money in order to live. Imagine a life where money could make you money to live in order that we could work less and have more time for the things that matter most. Well, you can. Learn how from everyday people who are making this a reality. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Coming up, Matt Frederick teaches us how our money can make us money investing in self-storage rentals.
Well, there are 4 types of self-storage. Four types.
Okay.
The first one's what's called narrow, or I call it first generation.
Yeah.
It's what we know. You have, on 1 acre, for instance, you might have 5 buildings, about 3,000 square feet each, so 30 by 100. So we call it narrow, or we call it first generation.
Everyday Investor is brought to you by ProFunds Mortgages, fixed returns, real security. Clover Properties Rent to Own, invest with a purpose. Sam McDaddy Real Estate, full service brokerage for all your buying, selling, and investing needs.
Hey, it's Rob. Welcome back. Remember, whenever you're given any type of investment opportunity, you always want to ask those 4 questions. What is the return on investment? When do I get that return along with the money I put in? What is the minimum investment amount needed? And what is the risk in the worst case scenario? So excited about today's show. My friend Matt Frederick's here. Matt Frederick, we're going to learn how we can make money investing in, ready? Self-storage facilities. Matt, thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, you know, we teach how money can make us money in rent-to-owns and land development, student rentals, flips, assignments, wholesaling, everything. You know, severing a piece of land. We teach all of that. You've done all of that. But when you said, Rav, you know, I'm into the storage facility space, and you kind of gave me the numbers on that, but more importantly, how it's like, you know, so stress-free, I said, you got to come on the show and you got to teach just that. Even though you're a teacher, you're an educator, we can talk about all those kinds of things. Before we get into that, let's talk about the most important. How have you been personally? What are you up to? How's your baby girl, who's not a baby anymore? She must be 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
You know what? I spend a lot of my time, coaching people. But personally, my daughter's 11, amazing little girl.
Yeah.
You know, I'm older now, and having a child when you're older gives you the opportunity to get to spend that time with them. You know, I can pick her from school. I can hang out with her when I want to. And my parents are older, 85 and 86. So I get time now to really enjoy my parents, and I love doing that.
You know, that's interesting that you just said that, because, you know, I had my kids now 18 and 16, a little younger, and my wife, an incredible teacher, my greatest teacher. She's always been at home, but she runs it all. And because, you know, I have to provide, I was working right. hard, and you know, still got some great time with them. But it is interesting when you have kids later and you're already perhaps established, you can work less and spend more time than, you know, someone like me back then.
Well, I mean, it's fun, but at the same time, you know, as a business owner, my daughter looks at things in a very simple way. And as you become better at what you do, and maybe you move from beginner to expert, you complicate things. So sometimes looking at things in the simplest way, I see how she sees things, I incorporate that, and I find that it helps me solve big problems. Because big problems are really solved by little things.
Big problems are solved by little things. I'm going to steal that. No, but I think, and that's what you're doing. You've kind of niched out your space where you are doing a lot of consulting, coaching, education company. Not necessarily for beginner investors. It's more for seasoned investors that want to learn just that and take it to the next level, such as investing in self-storages, perhaps.
No, very true. You know, it's funny. I've been investing for many years.
Yeah.
And I
about
find,
30 years, right?
But yeah, 30 years.
Yes.
And I found that 80% of the time I was successful, 20% I was not. And you would think that the 20% of the time that I was not successful would be as a beginner. But I found that as a seasoned investor, I actually made more mistakes. So it was kind of weird, right?
Well, I mean, go deeper on that. What do you mean?
Well, okay. So a lot of things is to do with, let's say, integrity. Okay. So today in the news, you hear about somebody who, let's say they were in high school, lacked integrity. Now they're going for a large position at 45 years old. People say, well, if they didn't have integrity then, they probably don't have integrity now. I think the flip side is the problem. If you had great integrity when you were young, people just assume that you have great integrity when you're older. But every single level that I've increased, from residential to commercial to land development, I've had to develop a special integrity and a way to survive and actually do the right thing.
And why is
each
that?
level.
Well, why do you think? Is it because there's more people involved? Because there's more money involved?
There's more people involved. There's more money involved. And every decision I make affects, again, more people. So I had to work at every single level in order to create the integrity required to survive at each level. And as I said, I failed sometimes in my responsibilities in that area. Some minor and I think some major. But again, your integrity is not set. You have to continuously develop it as you go from level to level to level. There's no pass for you.
That's very interesting.
So it's very important to consider that.
And I appreciate your humility to even share that. So then, Matt, what's the solution? Is it having great people around you? Is it reading books? Is it what is it?
Well, I think it's a combination. I mean, yes, you have to have great people around you. When it comes to reading books, I mean, people read a lot of books. I read probably 4 books a year. So I'll read a book in January. I'll take from that book probably 7 interesting things, and then I'll use that in my life, and then I'll incorporate them so that I'm living it, and then I'll read another book again and live it. So in a year, I might pick up 21, let's say, strategies or concepts that I'm actually living.
Or things for mindset, perhaps?
Mindset and doing things. So as opposed to just reading everything and just being what I call a bookaboo, a person who just has a lot of books.
What'd you say, a bookaboo?
I call it a bookaboo.
Yes.
A person who has a lot of books, but they're not really applying anything that they've read. So it's a combination of learning, a combination of applying, a combination of trying to be with people who have a higher standard of integrity than you do, and then they keep you in check.
I think that it takes, and it resonates from you. We've been friends for a long time. I think 15 years,
15 years.
But it takes humility, right?
It takes humility
to allow people to see things in your life, to not even allow, to welcome, hey, Matt, you know what? I need you, if you see some sort of interaction in my relationship with my wife, with my kids, with other colleagues, I welcome you to help me. I mean, it takes that kind of, and it's not hard to hear sometimes.
Right.
I love to preach God. Yeah. If you ever want to join me on a Sunday, always welcome.
I will actually.
And I love that. But after I'm done, I want to know the truth. I want Sinead to tell me the truth. I want the kids, who are not kids, they're teenagers. I want them to tell me the truth. Yeah, Dad, that was off. Dad, what did you mean by that? Dad, that sounded arrogant. I welcome that, right? Because that's the only way I can grow in integrity. So I love what you're saying.
That is the key thing. You have to welcome scrutiny, and you have to look at yourself and re-examine what you've done. I mean, if you're perfect, there's no reason to improve.
Yes.
And we're, really, I mean, we're human beings, but I like the concept of being human doings. So we're actually doing things to always increase and learn more.
I love it. I forgot for a second that this is an investing show.
Oh, yes,
but we are talking. We're talking about investing in mindset. We're talking about investing in the things that matter most.
That's right.
How much? What value can you put to integrity?
That's right.
What value can you put to relational intelligence? Right. But I know you've always been a big believer of this. I'm kind of a niche guy. But you've kind of branched it out into 3 places, right? You are in the real estate world and you teach that.
That's right.
You're in the business world and you teach that. And the third one, how do you define it? Is it just wellness?
So I call it wellness, but it's also mind, body, and soul. You have to bring all 3 together. And I find people who are successful, let's say health-wise, but you don't have money. For instance, your business is not making money, and you don't have a place to store it like real estate.
Yeah.
That's one leg of the 3-leg stool.
Yeah.
If you're just doing great in real estate, but not in business, then that's not so great either.
Yeah.
I think you need all 3.
You need all 3.
You need business,
real estate, and
wellness.
You could make your real estate your business.
Exactly.
But you need wellness, and under wellness, mind, body, soul. Okay,
mind,
great.
body, soul.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Let's talk a little bit because you've done it all, and from from investing and helping Indigenous. I know you're telling me, those stories, to severing land, to teaching, to having your own education company, and now you've kind of come full circle and say, you know what, that makes me happy, teaching people, consulting, so you're doing that. But I wanted to pick one, and I wanted to pick investing in self-storage. So just touch on it, 30 seconds, a minute. We'll take a break, and then we'll kind of get right into the numbers. So talk a little bit about self-storage, how it works, and why you like it.
So I like self-storage because consider this. You don't have cats, dogs. You don't have kids. I love kids. You don't have pets. You don't have washing machine, dryer, fridge, or stove. It's a simple unit with a garage door. And people store their valuables from 3 months to sometimes 2 years. It's really recession-proof because in bad times, people need a place to store their stuff. In good times, they buy so much, they need a place to store their stuff. And the population is getting a bit senior. And if you're over 64, 65, and you retire and you downsize, it's really hard for them to leave all their stuff. So, place to put it. If you're the baby boomer and you're downsizing, you still want to have some of the good toys stored away. And if you're a young adult living with somebody else in a condo and you're still buying stuff, where do you store stuff? In the cage downstairs? Self-storage is something that's really important. But quickly, 40% of self-storage today is now business storage.
40% is business. Okay.
Business.
Hold that thought. We're talking to my good friend Matt. We're going to learn how we can make money investing in self-storage facilities. Don't go anywhere. Everyday Investor continues in a moment.
Everyday Investor is brought to you by ProFunds Mortgages, fixed returns, real security. Clover Properties Rent to Own. Invest with a purpose. Sam McDaddy Real Estate, full service brokerage for all your buying, selling, and investing needs.
Hey, it's Rav. Welcome back to Everyday Investor. We're talking to my friend Matt. We're learning lots of things. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. I always appreciate our conversations.
I did too.
Yeah, it's great because it's not just about money. I mean, money is a good thing. It's a tool to be able to do the things that we want to be able to do. But there's more important things in life, such as faith, family, friends, fun, fitness. That I'm trying to get around to. Hey, why are you laughing in there? Today we're going to talk about how we can make money investing in storage, self-storage. Talk a little bit about the different types that we can invest. Because, you can buy existing, you could do build from brand new. What's in your opinion? Is there one that's better? Teach us a little bit about that.
Well, there are 4 types of self-storage.
4?
4 types.
Okay.
The first one's what's called narrow, or I call first generation.
Yeah.
It's what we know. You have, on 1 acre, for instance, you might have 5 buildings, about 3,000 square feet each, so 30 by 100.
And they're the one-story ones?
One story.
One story. So that's where I'm driving along the highway, and I see these 4 or 5 buildings, orange garages usually, and that's what you're talking about. What do you call that, narrow?
So we call it narrow, or we call it first generation.
First generation, okay, because that's what they used to do.
That's right.
And you say that's good for around an acre of land.
Well, I mean, you should have 2 or 3 acres, but I started off with just 1 acre, so I got involved in a small development, and we had, like I said, about 115 units, and that would be 22 units per 3,000 square foot building.
Okay.
Each of those buildings would generate before expenses about $5,500 a month in revenue.
Each.
Okay. So that's 5,500 times 5 buildings. That's 27,500 coming in.
Yeah.
And then you have to consider 36% is your operating cost. That's about 10,000.
Is that what the number is roughly? About 36%?
Generally 36% on those.
Okay.
And then you have to consider your mortgage might be 29%.
Yeah.
So that's another, let's say 8,000.
Yeah.
And then your vacancy is about 8%. And you want your vacancy to be about 8%. It's the only real estate where you want vacancy.
Why?
Well, because if you have unit sizes and you're fully occupied, somebody wants to downsize, there's nowhere for them to go. And they leave and go somewhere else, they never come back. If someone wants to downsize or upsize, somebody wants to come in to use the facility, but there's nothing available, there's a problem. So if you're at 100%, you generally increase the prices to bring it back down to about 92%. It takes about 18 to 24 months from scratch to fill up a self-storage business.
Self-storage business,
Yeah.
okay. So if
that's first generation.
First generation. So if we don't have a mortgage, then we're enjoying about 60%
Yes.
of that call it almost $30,000, 60%. So I'm enjoying about, $15,000, $16,000 a month. If I don't have a mortgage.
Well, actually, including the mortgage, that 1 acre with the 5 units will generate you about $7,000 cash flow.
Cash flow.
Because remember, it's 29% on the mortgage, it's 36% on operation, 8% on vacancy. From 27,500, it's about 5 to 7,000. The land's more expensive, then it'll be about 5,000.
Okay.
Less expensive, because an acre used to be $500,000. In some places, an acre is $1 million and $2 million.
So it depends where you're
depends on where you are.
Okay, so that's what our ancestors did. That's what the first generation.
That's right.
But obviously that takes up more land because you have 6 different, buildings.
Exactly. So the problem with that is it only covers 35% of the land because you have to drive in and out.
Yes.
So generation 2, it's called wide. You'd have like 1 large or 2 large wide units where it's internal storage. So then you drive up, open the door, you get the carts, you go inside. So it's warm storage. It's 1 level. It's internal. But you're using up 45% of that, let's say 1 acre. So you're getting many more units. Instead of 115 units, you probably have about 260 units. Third generation is what you see a lot today, where you have 1 massive building of 100,000 square feet to about 144,000 square feet. And it's 3 levels.
3 levels.
And you probably have between 800 to 1,600 units in there. And these are pristine. They look really nice. Because remember, cities hate self-storage, the old type. They find them ugly, and they want them away from the population. With the third generation, you have nicer buildings that come closer to people, and then you have what I call fourth generation, which is taking the third generation, and a great company to look at is a company called Diamond, D-Y-M-O-N, Storage. I'm not associated with them, but they're, I think, an industry leader in what's happening. And what's happening is now they're combining things. So it isn't just self-storage anymore. It's you can have a closet, walk-in closet. You can have wine storage. You can have a boardroom. You can have small, small offices, or you can have shared office space. You can have a cafe. You have someone to receive your shipment. Again, it's cleaner, nicer, beautiful places, and they look even like glass buildings. So they move closer and closer into the community, and the cities like them.
But you're going to need more. You're going to need, for what you just described, which sounds nice. I'm going to need more employees. I'm going to need because it's now like a, if there's a coffee shop in there for, if there's this, it's now really a true running, operating business. I think I like the third one.
Right.
And the third one, describe that again. It's one building, 3 levels, looks nice. Therefore, the city approves it. But again, there's really a couple people working there. People have access 24/7. Is there always staff there or no?
Well, no. It's a regular 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, it's a regular 9 to 5.
And one person can actually run one of those large buildings. But even with the fourth generation, you can have concessions, right? And again,
what does that mean, concessions?
You can have somebody who's paying to use the facility and end up running some of those other businesses, if need be. Keep in mind, too, that you can go online and sign up. You can go online. It'll tell you exactly where your locker is. You get access to it. It'll give you a map to your locker. So it's not as though it's a heavily labor-intensive kind of business.
Yes.
And of course, each generation, you'll have to figure what of that is required for the area. Is it just storage and wine storage? Is it storage and, let's say, offices? Every person will have to look and see, okay, what is the area? What's the competition? What's needed? And they can modify that to make it work better.
So smart. So, you are such a smart guy. I love listening, learning. So the ROI, the return on investment in this is usually, you've told me, Rav, anywhere 20, 25%, all depends, but you look for something 20, 25%, but 0 headaches year after year, incredible cash flow, put up a few cameras, insurance purposes. Is that right? Is that what we're kind of looking at?
It's true. So 21% is a good return for the first generation. 24, 25, 26 to 28% if you're building something with somebody.
Okay, so when you were telling me low 20s, that was from before.
Generation 1.
If you're talking about the fourth way to do things, or even the third, you're saying we can get to close to 30%.
The problem with the first generation is because land has gone up in value so much, it's now not going to make as much cash flow. It wouldn't make the 7,000, it might make 5,000 a month. And then as land values go up, if you're buying into these, the problem with first generation, there's nobody who wants to sell them. People keep them. So that's why it's something that you may want to build. And then if you're going to build it, you realize it's just covering the land, 35%. You need more land coverage and you need more density.
What do you mean 35%?
Well, again, with an acre is 43,560.
Yes.
15,000, 5 buildings at 3,000 each. That's $15,000. Well, it means that 15,000 square feet.
Square feet of the 43, whatever.
Of the 43.
So a third. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
So you know a third of that. Okay.
Yeah. So if you divide it, it's 35% coverage.
Okay. So let's say we're doing this today.
Yeah.
Let's say Matt is so generous to bring in his very lowly friend Rav, who has a couple of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do this together, and you are the one that's driving this. Are we looking for resale, or if we have the opportunity, are we going to buy the land and build from scratch?
For self-storage, you want to buy the land, build from scratch, and you want to keep it for the next 15 or 20 years.
Okay, so when we buy the land, the bank's not giving us that money. We've got to buy it cash.
Yeah. So basically, So land. Let's say it's $2 million.
$2 million.
And then you have to consider your site plan approval, maybe $500,000.
Yeah.
Your underground services. Let's say it's $2 per square foot. And then you have to now build. So if you're building a 3-story, 100,000 square foot facility, it's going to be about $85 a square foot. Now, if you're building 144,000, 3 levels, it's less, $74 a square foot. So the 144,000 size is probably at $74 a square foot the best scenario.
Yeah.
And the second would be 100,000 at square feet at 3 levels.
I need to get the paper and pen out myself, the calculator, sit down with you. It's unfortunate that time has run out, but listen, I know you're teaching this kind of stuff, and there's lots to learn from Matt Frederick. Thank you so much for being on the show and just giving something to our audience to think about. Thank you so much, Matt.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. For more information on this show or any others, or to become an everyday investor insider where you can get investment opportunities, tips, advice, go to everydayinvestor.com and sign up. Until next week, we'll see you same place, same time. Honey, I love you. I'll be home soon.